If you've ever stared at a new notebook and wondered how you could take it from this pristine white bundle of paper to a true reflection of who you are, then this video is for you. The inside of my notebook is a beautiful, messy, structured, chaotic, wild paradox of a place. That is a pretty good description of what's going on in my brain as well. Don't worry, I'm going to show you more of what that looks like and why it works for me. A while back, I made a video about how I use my traveler's notebook for noting, logging, and diving. Those are all techniques that I use in my personal life. Today is a follow-up all about how I use my notebook in my creative work life. These 3 additional techniques that I'm going to talk about today will be mind mapping, time blocking, and drafting. And I'll explain each of those, but what I really hope that you take away from this video is that all of these strategies and methods are really just containers to help you feel like your imperfections are legit. Because those quirks and imperfections are what are going to make your journal feel like you. They're what separate you from me and both of us from ChatGPT. When I first discovered mind mapping, which I'm pretty sure was when I was in high school, my brain just sort of rolled over and stretched out like a cat in the sunshine. This was what I needed. This was peace and space and comfort. Not everyone feels like that. My mother-in-law once looked at one of my mind maps and almost recoiled in horror. Her mind likes the organization of an outline with topics and subtopics all in a neat line. But I'm going to say if mind maps do work for you, and I really suggest you try them out, they're going to really work. So what is a mind map? If you've never seen one or made one, it's basically a non-linear outline. It's a radial way of presenting information. For me, this sprawling structure feels organic and freeing. It allows me to capture my thoughts in real time with all of their connections to one another flowing back and forth. Tony Buzan, who is the English writer who claims to have originated the term mind map and definitely has been its most important modern evangelist, said that mind maps work because they mimic the way our brains work through connections. He encouraged using color and imagery on the page to even further imitate the way that we tend to think. He actually had a very specific process for mind mapping, which he laid out in his book called How to Mind Map. Buzan said that you should start in the center of the page, use a bold image for your central idea. And all of this should be done in color. From the middle, you work outwards, connecting branches from the main concept to the second level and then the third level. And you make those branches curved so that they feel organic and not rigid. Buzan says you should only put 1 keyword per line to allow the maximum flexibility for coming up with further ideas. And throughout, you should use images to draw your attention and spark your memory. As you can see, I don't follow all of those rules all the time. A lot of times, my mind maps, especially older ones, are just black and white. But I can definitely see the difference in appeal between those brightly colored mind maps and the more plain black and white ones. And yes, my brain does gravitate to the colored ones. Another big, colorful way I use my journal is for time blocking. I actually just started this at the beginning of this year, and I will link in the description to the video where I first posited it as an idea that I thought might help me. I started time blocking for a couple of reasons. First, I just had the sense that I wasn't using my time as efficiently as possible, and I am not a productivity at all costs sort of person. But I did want to not have these big expanses of time during the day where I wasn't mindful of what I was doing, where I wasn't using that time in a way that felt beneficial and good to me. I do believe that you can't make good choices if you're not aware of what you're choosing. So I wanted to see how my intended time use stacked up to my actual time use. The second reason I started time blocking was because I wanted to see which parts of my life I was neglecting. To do those things, my system, which uses a vertical weekly planner, has 2 steps. So the first step was just looking at my calendar and blocking out my week in pencil, starting with the things that I had scheduled, like volunteer time or any appointments, and then putting in areas of solid work. That way, as I went into each day, I would know what my plans were and what to expect. Secondly, I go back with a pen and I go over the pencil with how my time was actually spent. And I will be honest with you, it doesn't often stack up. I color code the blocks to represent how I'm using the time. So my color coding system involves blue for self-care, intentional self-care, red for work, yellow for social time, light blue for volunteering my time, purple for household life type tasks like grocery shopping and paying bills and cleaning, and then green for relaxation time, sometimes less intentional than maybe I would hope. Research on time blocking says that it reduces stress and improves productivity, mostly through cutting down on decision fatigue and the time spent task switching. I've definitely found that to be true for me when my day starts to go off course, and it almost always goes off course. Instead of just giving up on the day or going off and doing my own thing and kind of spinning out of control, I can go back to my plan at any point and jump right back into where I wanted to be. Time blocking has actually allowed me to double the number of videos that I put out every month, and I actually think that I may be putting out even more in the future. It also allows me at a glance to see why my house is such a mess, because there's no time on there that I've spent cleaning, or why I've been feeling so lonely, because I've been neglecting social time. It also shows me how much self-care time I need to recover from an intense therapy session or a whole lot of social interaction, and I can allow for that time in the future. Plus, I really like the way it looks, and I can decorate it with stickers, so that's pretty fun. In her book, Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert recounts a story that was told to her by the poet Ruth Stone. Stone grew up working the fields on a farm in rural Virginia, and she would often have poetry ideas come to her as she was out working. She said she could hear poems coming. They would be rushing across the landscape to her like a herd of galloping horses. And when that happened, she would have to take off running to try to catch it. Or she said she'd run like hell towards the house to get to some paper. That way, when the poem got to her and passed through her, she would be able to take dictation and write it down as it came. Sometimes, though, she didn't quite get to the poem in time, but she was able to just catch the tail end. And this, as Elizabeth Gilbert says, is the wild part. She writes, she would just barely catch it by the tail, like grabbing a tiger. Then she would almost physically pull the poem back into her with one hand, even as she was taking dictation with the other. In these instances, the poem would appear on the page from the last word to the first, backwards, but otherwise intact. That has never happened to me. But my point in telling this story is that sometimes ideas don't show up as just nebulous concepts. Sometimes they come in as strings of beautiful words already put together in the right order. They come as phrases, as fully structured sentences, and in some rare, miraculous moments, they come as paragraphs ready to go. Those are the times when I grab my notebook to draft. There's something magical about that connection between our pens and our brains. There's a direct line that might sort of be there when we have fingers on a keyboard, but it really prefers that movement, that glide of a pen across the paper. And I'm telling you this anecdotally from my own experience, but there's also some research to back it up. In 2024, researchers at the Norwegian Institute of Science and Technology hooked their volunteers up to an array of EEG sensors to record their brain activity as they both handwrote and typed out words that appeared on a screen in front of them. It turns out that the handwriting showed way more brain connections and activity happening than the typing did. And it wasn't just in the areas of brain that might be explained by needing more fine motor control to write. This was in the areas of learning long-term memory and short-term memory. It just hits different when you write with your hands. As you bring each one of these techniques and any others that you like to use into your notebook, you'll find that it looks more and more like you. From the sketches scattered across your mind maps, to the colors that you might choose for time blocking, to the beautiful loops and swirls and lines of your own handwriting. Moreover, you'll flip through those pages and you'll see your own mind there, which will only cause things to open up and more ideas to flow so that your notebook can become more and more your own. Don't worry about making it beautiful. Don't fret about messing it up. The beauty and the magic that will be your notebook are coming from you, and you can't mess that up. It just is. Until next time, I am wishing you love and joy and all those good things, and I can't wait to talk to you again. Hey, are you a word person? I think you might be if you're here. And if you are, I think you might like to sign up for my Substack. You'll get messages from me every month, and if you upgrade to a paid subscription, you'll actually get a little essay that goes along with each YouTube video I put out. You can sign up at fromjen.substack.com.